Hey feline friends, welcome back. I know it's been a while, but I feel like a lot of you who have been with my channel for a while are pretty used to my annual uploads at this point. But anyway, today we are talking all about cat pheromones. More specifically, this little bottle called Feliway, which claims to calm anxious cats and improve bad cat behavior. About a year and a half ago, I adopted a new cat who is quite anxious. So naturally, I wanted to look into getting Feliway myself because I wanted to find ways to help her acclimate to our apartment. So for those of you who are in a similar situation, I thought I'd share a little bit about my experience, review some of the scientific and anecdotal evidence surrounding this product, and discuss whether I think it's worth it or not. And just to clarify, I am in no way sponsored by Feliway, and this is all purely from my own research and experiences. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so starting off with the basics, what exactly is Feliway? Feliway is essentially a company that's created this cat pheromone product that either comes in a spray bottle or a diffuser bottle. Now, I personally purchased the diffuser bottle, and basically how it works is you plug in the diffuser into the wall, so it comes with like this little plug right here, and then you get this bottle filled with pheromones. You basically twist it into the plug, and then you just pick an area in your apartment or home, plug the diffuser in, and it slowly diffuses out pheromones to help your cat calm down. Now, I haven't tried the spray bottle, but basically the spray bottle does the same thing, except you spray it on specific pieces of furniture or surfaces, and it's supposed to have the same calming effect. And essentially this product works by mimicking a cat's cheek pheromone. So if you're a cat owner, you've probably seen your cat or cats rub their cheeks against various surfaces and people. And this is essentially their way of marking their territory and marking specific objects or people as safe. A cat's cheek has 5 different pheromones, F1 through F5, and this product right here uses pheromone F3, which is supposed to mark a cat's safe and secure territory. So Siva Animal Health, the company that created this diffuser or spray, essentially claims that by mimicking this pheromone, this product can help your cats do one of several things. It can either help reduce their stress and anxiety, minimize scratching, reduce spraying, and help cats who live in multi-cat households get along with each other. There's also a few other behavioral fixes that they list on their website, but it all comes down to helping your cat feel more at ease, which will naturally help them reduce bad behaviors. Now, at around $25 per spray bottle and $25 per diffuser kit, plus $21 monthly refills, this can be a pretty costly product to keep around. So I think it's totally fair for cat owners to wonder whether or not it's actually worth the investment. So before I get into my own experiences and anecdotal experiences that I've heard from other cat owners, let's go into what the actual research says about this product. So I'm actually a trained researcher who spends most of my day vetting research studies for humans, so I essentially apply the same practices that I use in my day-to-day work on the studies that I found for this video. That said, I may have missed some things, and one thing I've learned from being a researcher is that you give a research study to 10 different people, you might hear 10 different opinions. At the end of the day, we take the evidence that we can get and we try to make an educated opinion about something. That said, I did find several clinical trials examining the effect that Feliway has on cats. But the biggest issue I was seeing is that a lot of these studies were actually funded or conducted by Siva Animal Health, which, like I mentioned earlier, is the parent company that creates these products. It's always important to keep in mind that when a company produces its own research studies, of course they're going to try really hard to publish positive results that help sell their product. Now, I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty, so let me just briefly summarize what I gathered from the studies. So in total, I looked at 8 different studies. 4 of these studies examined the effect of a synthetic F3 pheromone product on the general stress of cats. 1 study looked at its effect on spraying, 1 study looked at its effect on scratching behaviors, and 2 studies looked at its effect on cat-to-cat or cat-to-dog relationships. So among the 4 studies that looked at general stress, 3 of these studies compared the effect of an F3 spray to a placebo spray, either in the vet's office or in a car while transporting cats. And actually all 3 of these studies found that the F3 pheromone spray was more effective at reducing general stress than the placebo spray. And only 1 of these studies had direct involvement from Siva employees. The last study in this batch, which also had no involvement from Siva, compared an F3 diffuser diffuser to a placebo diffuser for 21 days. And contrary to the other 3 studies, this study actually found that it made no measurable difference in calming cats. I will say that all of these studies were blinded and randomized, which means they were pretty well conducted. So there does seem to be some evidence, even from studies not funded by SIVA, supporting the claim that Feliway can help reduce stress in cats. But it is important to note that the evidence clearly isn't consistent, especially for the diffuser. The one study that looked at urine spraying was actually funded and directed by consultants from SIVA, which I think is important to point out because I actually had a huge issue with this study. It was essentially a meta-analysis, which is basically a type of study that pulls together a bunch of different results from a bunch of different studies, which typically makes it a pretty strong source of evidence. However, the authors did not conduct this the way a meta-analysis should be conducted, and they basically pulled together results from studies that looked at not only the F3 pheromone, but also actual medications used to treat bad cat behavior. By doing this, they made a very misleading claim in the abstract that using any 3 of these interventions can help reduce urine spraying by at least 90%. But when I dove into the results and looked at the standalone analysis of studies using only F3 products, there was actually no significant difference in urine spraying between cats on the F3 pheromone and cats on placebo. So all in all, this study was super misleading, and if you look at the actual results, you'll see that you're actually better off getting your cat treated with either of the 2 medications used in the analysis if you actually want to address urine spraying behaviors. And there's really no strong evidence supporting the claim that Feliway can help reduce urine spraying on its own. The one study that looked at scratching behaviors was also funded and directed by SIVA, but I will say that this study was much better conducted than the spraying study. It was triple blinded, randomized, and had a huge sample, and essentially it found that after 28 days, cats using the Feliway diffuser had an 83.5% reduction in scratching behaviors, while cats on a placebo had a 68.5% reduction in scratching behaviors. I would like to see more studies come out that aren't funded by SIVA to see if this evidence is consistent, and I do think it's important to point out that there was a pretty big reduction in the placebo group as well, which makes me think there were other factors at play that may have influenced the results here. But taking the study at face value, this study alone does suggest that Feliway might have the potential to reduce scratching behaviors, although that effect probably isn't that strong. And finally, the last 2 studies that looked at Feliway's effect on multi-pet households both found that the F3 diffuser can potentially help ease tension between cats or cats and dogs. The first study was funded by SIVA and looked only at cats, but it was fairly well conducted, and it did find a greater decrease in aggression scores with Feliway versus placebo. The second study was not funded and did not have any involvement from SIVA, and actually compared Feliway and Adaptil, which is essentially SIVA's dog version of Feliway. This study found that using either of these products can help ease relationships between cats and dogs, but there was no general placebo group, so it's actually difficult to make a strong claim on the effectiveness of either of these products. To summarize my overall thoughts on the actual scientific evidence on Feliway, I'd say I'd like to see some more research come out that's not funded by SIVA directly. There are non-SIVA funded studies that show that Feliway does have the potential to reduce stress in cats, but as far as their other claims go, I'd say there's not enough scientific evidence to be super confident in them. Okay, so now moving on to more of the anecdotal experiences I've heard and my own experiences with the product. So like I was saying, I initially got Feliway because I adopted my cat Mika, who is such a sweetheart but very, very skittish. And if you watched my initial adoption video, you'll know that it took her quite a bit of time to get used to me and my partner. So my friend had actually recommended Feliway because she had adopted a few cats on top of a cat she already had, and they had been fighting a lot, and in her experience she used Feliway to help improve tension. After a few days or a few weeks of using it, her cats seemed to get along better and they fought less. So I decided to try it out for myself, granted for a different reason. And to be honest, you know, over time, Mika did seem to acclimate more. She, you know, slowly came out of her hiding spots more. But I don't know if that's because she just got more used to living with us over time naturally, or if the Feliway actually helped. I think I used it for about 6 months maybe a little longer. I don't use it anymore, and Mika's like totally acclimated to our space. Of course, she's still scared of strangers, but you know, she cuddles with me, she plays with me, she's always out and about during the day, and that wasn't the case when we first got her. So even without Feliway now, she's like this, and I think she's just overall at baseline gotten used to living with us. So honestly, from my own experiences, it's hard to say whether or not it did anything. But I will say, when I went to Reddit to read about other people's experiences, it also seemed like the anecdotal evidence is pretty inconsistent, similar to the research studies that I went over. Some Reddit users state that it worked great for them, and it also seems like Feliway came out with a newer product in 2020 called Feliway Optimum, which is supposed to be more enhanced than the classic Feliway, which is what I use right here. As far as the Optimum goes, it seems like people have had better experiences with that one, specifically to ease tension between cats in multi-cat households. I tried to look a little bit into what's different about the Optimum, and I couldn't really find a clear answer. I don't know if their concentration of F3 pheromone is just higher, but you know, I feel like for every positive experience I read, I also read a negative one or a neutral one. Some people said that they didn't really see any difference in their cat behavior. Others say they actually saw their cats get worse. And then I also saw a few comments flagging the concern that if you, as a cat owner, have asthma, that this might cause some irritation. Do I regret trying it? I don't really know. I mean, if it helped Mika in any way, great. But like I said, you know, it is kind of a hefty monthly price for a lot of cat owners. So I'd say if you're looking for a solution to help your cat, it's not necessarily like a make or break item that you need to have. Another thing I will say is that if your cat is having any behavioral problems, it's always important to consult a cat behavioralist or a veterinarian. In my opinion, I don't think Feliway alone can fix an issue like spraying or scratching 100% by itself. I think it takes a mixture of maybe finding ways to calm down your cat and also working with different specialists and experts to kind of get to the root of the problem. But yeah, if any of you have tried Feliway and you've had different experiences than me, please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that this video was helpful, and I also just want to quickly say thank you so much for everyone who's stuck around on my channel. I know I'm extremely inconsistent at uploading, and I really do hope to change that this year. My life has stabilized a little bit more, and I'm finding that I have more free time nowadays, so I'd really love to get back to uploading more on this channel. So yeah, thank you so much, and see you in the next video. Bye!